Welcome to Daughters of Narcissistic Mothers podcast, your number one podcast for healing the wound of maternal narcissism and stepping into your power. In this episode, you will get to see what happens when a narcissistic mother goes into grieving, to best prepare yourself for this if it's coming, and to know that you're not alone in it if you're experiencing it right now. Listen till the end to get the 5 things you can do now to protect yourself and your own grieving process. I'm Matilda and I'm your host. I'm an inner transformation mentor supporting women healing mother wounds through the one-on-one 10 weeks program and through Reclaim Your Fullness online community. So what happens when a narcissistic mother grieves? Have you experienced your mother grieving or going through other strong emotions? Are you dreading it ever happening again? Are you struggling to find space for your own grief as your mother takes it all up? I've been there with my mother several times, and it always ended up the same way, with her taking up all the space and sucking the life right out of every room she was in. So if you've experienced your narcissistic mother grieving and going through some real strong emotions, and you're feeling like, are you the only one to see this? Are you crazy? Is this how everyone grieves? Is this normal? If any of these questions is coming up for you, I want you to know you're not alone. That being the way a narcissistic mother is while grieving is not a healthy way to be. The way she relates to others in that situation, in those moments, are not a healthy way of relating to others. And if this is causing you suffering, that is because you are noticing what's happening. You're actually awake and aware to what's going on around you. So let's dive in. I'm going to share a little bit about my personal experience, and then we'll go into what to expect and also what you can do to protect yourself, which is the most important part. So as I said, I have been there with my mother several times. Whenever and this would happen if she was going into some grieving for the loss of someone or maybe one of her pets, or if she was also going through really strong emotions. So no one could so much as speak or move around her whenever she was in deep emotions, such as grieving is. I still remember, for example, the time she found a fox caught in a trap on our land. Now, that we had not set that trap up, obviously. That was some other person who had passed through our land and done that. In Italy, there's no boundaries, so people can walk right through your land. So it hadn't been us. But my mother noticed this, and she had collected myself and my sister from school, I believe, something like that. We were small. I was small enough at the time. And I remember that as we were driving down our lane and she saw this and she stopped the car and she went and saw this and then came back, like the mood dropped completely. It became like, when you see it in cartoons, everything becomes ice cold. That's what happened. It was like as everything had frosted over. And of course I was a child and I was very upset too. Because that was a dead fox. I loved animals and I still do, and so that was something that would upset me, but I could not even say it. She just turned silent and clearly sad and remained like that for the rest of the time, for the rest of the day. I can't remember, as I say, all the details, but she did not eat. I remember we went home and it was meant to be lunchtime and she didn't eat and stayed on the couch in complete silence. She did not speak at all. She expressed zero concern for me or for my sister, who was even smaller at the time, of course. Did not do anything for us at all. Just went completely into herself, and that was that. And this was like the first experience that I have memory of as a child. There may have been obviously things that happened before then, but that is a clear memory I have. And this was just the tip of the iceberg, of course, as it was not that a fox is not important, but it was not a relative or someone in her life that was a major person in her life that she was close to. So things would get even worse. I've been with her through days of not eating, self-harm, deep depression alternating with aggressive behaviors, and no concern for anyone around her. And this has happened multiple times when I was still in contact with my mother. Anytime that she was going through some kind of grieving process or some kind of strong emotion, no one else could even breathe. Like, it was all revolving 100% around her. It was like she became a black hole. That's actually probably the best way to describe it. And absorb all emotions in the room, all energy in the room, and become like this black hole that people had to go around and make sure and that she was fine and tend to her needs, while she did absolutely nothing, not only for herself, but obviously for no one else around her. Have you experienced anything similar with your mother? If you have, I want you to know again that you're not alone in this. The thing is, a narcissistic mother is self-absorbed by default and absolutely incapable of self-regulation. Her emotions are the only one that matter, and the only real ones too, in her own world, in her own mind. So in this episode, we're talking about grief, as I received the request from someone currently going through grief for a loss that also impacted her mother. So there is a common grief that can't be shared. And this person reported her inability to find the space to grieve, as her mother would not respect that others may be grieving too, while she's caught in her own deep emotionality. So today we're talking about grief, but this behavior of being completely self-absorbed in her own emotions can be applied to any other strong emotion too. My mother-in-law, for example, is a scary thing, as everything is about what she feels, and she gets completely lost in that, disregarding everyone else around her. Same goes for when she's angry about something, and so on. So you may have observed this kind of behavior in different situations too, but let's get back to today's topic, which is grief. So what to expect when your narcissistic mother is grieving? I'm going to give you 8 main points here of what you can expect. 8 main sort of toxic behaviors that you can end up being caught into and observed and received from your mother. So the first one is self-absorbed. So expect her to be lost in her own emotion, completely absorbed in them, disregarding practicalities. You know, again, she may not take care of herself, she may not take care of the things that she usually takes care of, and this is okay. There is an element of grieving where sometimes there can be an aspect, even in healthy grieving, of pausing certain things and having to tend to yourself a little more. But with a narcissistic mother, this is a complete disregard. She doesn't care who is that gonna impact. She doesn't care if other people that are around her are also grieving, need to step in, and they can't have space for their own grieving because she's completely dropped everything that she was doing before in order to go into this complete self-absorbed state. And also she will disregard other people around her, as in their own emotions and their own feelings. So this may have been her tendency anyway. As we know, self-absorbed is what a narcissistic mother is at best at times, but it may get worse when grieving. It'll likely get worse. As the stronger the emotion, the more they go into this state of being completely self-absorbed in it. Number 2 is being at the center of attention. So we know that a narcissistic mother loves being at the center of attention. Yeah? So grieve is a great excuse to be at the center of everybody's attention. So what can you expect in this? You can expect exaggerations, drama. If victimism is something that she does regularly, you can expect way more victimism coming your way. big scenes when others are around. Like, it's not uncommon to see big dramatic bursting into tears, fainting, feeling like showing of feeling so hyper affected when there's other people around her, and then seeing a switch where she seems like back to real her normal self when there's no one around. And you may wonder, like, how is that even possible? I mean, if someone's suffering, it's suffering all the time. How is it that when other people are around, it goes into these dramatics? And that is because it just gives her more of a chance to be at the center of attention. And to do that, it's not going to be beyond her to actually put you down in the process. And you're grieving, disregard that. Third point is gaslighting. Again, this is something we know happens with a narcissistic mother on a regular basis, but when we're going into grieving, her emotions are the only one that matter. And she likes being at the center of attention, as we said. Therefore, anyone else who needs to grieve too will be gaslighted. They're feeling invalidated and diminished in comparison to hers. So she can say things like, "You cry? Imagine how I feel." Or, "Why do you even cry? You never cared for this person like I did." So diminishing and gaslighting your grief, your emotion, as if, again, she's the only one that's actually entitled to have emotions on this matter and you are not. And whatever you're feeling is either ridiculous or too much or too little or whatever. Number 4, entitlement. She feels entitled to be taken care of in her grief, to have all her needs met, which is what narcissists do all the time anyways, but in her grief this can become even more intense. Driving the mood. Number 5, if she's unhappy, no one else can be happy kind of way. She may want to keep the windows closed or the lights off, and she is the one who decides how this event affects everyone else. And she doesn't care if her behavior affects everyone else. It's all like she's the head of the situation. She's the one. Her emotions dictate what happens. I remember just walking in the house, in the main room of the house, and my mother was just like, sitting like a black hole, sitting on her armchair. She hadn't even dressed, she was still in pyjama maybe, and just watching something extremely depressing on TV with the lights off, and you had to tiptoe around that. You couldn't, if you even tried to talk to her, she'd just be looking at you like, "Can't you see I'm grieving? Can't you see I'm in a mood? Just leave me be," But if you didn't take care of her, then there was the victimism of no one loves me and no one takes care of me. So this driving the mood, like you can't actually be, you don't have any right to be in any mood at all. She is the center of the universe and her mood is the one that matters. Number 6, you can witness her being aggressive, or you also can witness mood swings. So she can become more aggressive than usual if that's her way. If she's like quite overt narcissist and she's quite aggressive and outspoken, she might become more of that. Narcissists don't like being vulnerable, and if this grief makes her feel that way, she can fight that by becoming aggressive with those around her, sort of like a wounded animal. If a wounded animal, if you try and touch them because they're feeling really vulnerable in that moment, they're gonna bite you, and that's literally what she can do, and become verbally and even physically aggressive. If that is part of what she does normally. And you can also see the mood swings. So as we said about being at the center of attention, drama when people are around, and then being perfectly fine when people are not. So you could be approaching her and actually see that, "Oh, today she's not that bad. Maybe we can talk about certain things. Maybe we can approach some topics." But if you touch some of these topics and you have no way to know of to predict what these hot topics are going to be, she can just change her mood very quickly and lash out to you And of course, you may be, if you don't know to expect this, you may be unprepared, and that can hurt, especially if you're also going through quite a bit of grief in all of this. Number 7, cheerful gaslighting. And what is this? This is when you would be expecting her to grieve, but she doesn't seem to. In fact, she seems more cheerful than usual. Which one could say, well, isn't that a good thing? I mean, she seems happy, but it's not, because in order to do that, she is gaslighting everyone else around her who's actually grieving. So let's say this person, let's say it's your father that passed away. You're expecting your mother to grieve, but she's actually as happy as can be, and she's going around super cheerful. She's putting on her best dresses. You're like, what the hell? But you're actually really grieving. And your grief is completely gaslighted. It's completely disregarded. The sort of like, oh, it's time to move on kind of way. Or what are you crying about? I mean, there's nothing to cry about here. It was just your father. Something like that. This is her absolute denial of her emotions. Again, for that fear of, that part that in the narcissist hates being vulnerable. So this type of narcissist doesn't even go there, goes to the other opposite end of the spectrum, which can be quite disarming and scary to witness. And in order to keep that going, she has to deny everyone else's experience too. So in this instance, you really don't feel allowed to grieve, because she's not giving you any space to do that. She might try to organize things that are her opposite, that people do when they're happy. But you don't feel like doing those things because you are actually grieving. And there can be this sort of not wanting to drag her mood down, and maybe you go along with it because you wanna, she looks happy, so you try to go along with it, but that can be very, very hurtful for you if you are also going through grieving. And number 8 is the monster unleashed. So this is when the person who passed away was somehow keeping your mother in check. This could have been her own parent, or maybe her husband, your other parent, or anyone else who managed to have an influence on your mother's behavior, making it less extreme. Once this person has passed away, you can expect a worsening of her narcissistic behavior. If she was tendentially a victim, her victimism will intensify. If she was overtly abusive, now she is unleashed, because she doesn't have that person keeping her in check anymore, and so on. So this can be quite intense to go through. Personally, the one human being that manages to keep my mother in check a little tiny bit is still alive. We'll see what happens when this person passes away. Hopefully in a long time away from now, but that is what you can expect. So have you experienced any of this? Share in the comments below what has been your experience with your mother grieving, or indeed even going through strong emotions. At this point, we need to look at what you can do to protect yourself in this scenario. And I want to give you 5 things that you can do to empower yourself, and mostly to keep yourself protected, because whether you are grieving too or not, whether this grief is common and shared, as it can be when it's your other parent that passes away, or maybe you're not involved in this grieving at all, but you still need to keep yourself protected from these very toxic behaviors. So number 1 is be prepared. It's like the first step in the boundary setting process. Prepare, state, and maintain are the 3 steps in the boundary setting process. So be prepared is really important. Knowing what may be coming your way is not being negative, but it is a good way to lessen the blow when it comes. If you are prepared for this, there are less chances of being hit by her behavior. And this is what you're doing right now, like knowing that what to expect. It's part of preparing yourself. The next point is manage your expectations. there may be a part of you that hopes this grief will bring you and your mother closer. That she will see you in your own pain as much as you are able to see her in hers, because you may be seeing that she is actually grieving. And of course, there's part of you that may hope that she also sees your pain. With this hope, when she turns on you and gets all self-centered and she gaslights you and does all of that, it's going to hurt double and add to the grief that you're already feeling. I do hear often in listeners' emails how at the passing of the other parent, the person ends up grieving both because the mother goes so narcissistic, is like losing her too. Some actually end up going no contact after the passing of the other parent, as often the other parent was really the only reason they were still in contact with their mother as well. But then on top of that, there's a worsening of all the behaviors, and so they end up going no contact, and so there's a double grieving. So manage your expectation. This is very important. This grief is unlikely to bring you closer the way you would hope. I will never say it's impossible, but it's highly unlikely. And even in the instances when there's an apparent bringing you closer, feel into it. Is it transactional? Is there like needs that your mother is looking to get met? And so in order to do that, she is getting close to you. But how much of that is actually genuine? Because that can also abruptly stop. I've seen that, like my mother in moments when she's vulnerable, she has been vulnerable, she's been in deep emotions that were really intense to go through very challenging times. Oh, butter wouldn't melt. She becomes like such a lovely person to be around at moments. And then very quickly, once she has resolved the challenge, she goes back to behave exactly like the narcissistic mother she is. So again, managing your expectation is important. That part that hopes for closeness, that's very natural. You're talking about your mother here, so of course there is a part of you that wants that closeness, but you also know your mother, how she really is. So is that likely to actually really be real and happen? Manage your expectations is very important. Number 3, set boundaries. You need space to grieve as much as anyone else's does. You will have your own personal way to process grief, and this is your right. A right you may have to protect with boundaries to give yourself the time and space you need. So this is not disregarding your mother's grieving, this is honoring your own grief, which is very important. And boundaries are going to be essential for this. As well as if, as we mentioned, the grief is not yours at all. It's your mother's experience. Maybe the person that passed away has nothing to do with you at all. So you're not grieving, but you have a life. And her grief can't be the thing that absorbs every day of your life completely as she would want. So, or that impacts your life in a way that it becomes an earthquake in your own everyday life because she is grieving. So boundaries are going to be important. And setting boundaries is not disregarding her grief. You can honor her grief, but also at the same time, make sure that you retain your own space, your own time, and your boundaries. Those are important. So if you haven't already, download the free roadmap to boundary setting. That is in the link in the description. And I want to remind you also that on the platform of Reclaim Your Fullness online community, we have a 4 days boundary workshop that's included on the platform. So when you join Reclaim Your Fullness community, you can access that workshop right away and get really deep and get a lot of clarity into how set boundaries. And also on the platform, you actually can get guidance from other women who've been through it and from myself. Now, with that said, let's go to number 4. Keep yourself resourced. What does that mean? Make sure to take care of yourself and keep time to nourish your heart. Most people feel guilty doing something that makes them happy when their mother is grieving. Like she's sad, so I should be sad too. The thing is, the more resourced and nourished your heart is, the more you're going to be able to offer support to others, including your mother, and also to keep yourself protected from a narcissistic behavior. You're going to be able to set boundaries way more clear, in a clear way, when you are resourced, when you've taken care of yourself. So there is nothing wrong with doing things that make you happy, even in a moment where your mother is grieving, or even in a moment where you are also grieving. It's not about trying to bypass the grief and pretend that you're happy. It's about allowing yourself the space to also do stuff that it's something that usually makes you happy, and so it's going to nourish your spirit. So if you love gardening, you can still do it even if you're going through a grieving process. If you feel that you want to go out for coffee with some good friends, that's not a bad thing. You're not being a bad person. If you want to go into nature in a place that you love, that nourishes your spirit, why not? That's all good. All of this is going to help you being resourced to support your mother to her grief in the way that feels okay to you to do. And also to support yourself in dealing with her when she goes all narcissistic on you, and setting the boundaries that you need to set. So keep yourself resourced. Take good care of yourself. And number 5, this is the people you share with. And this is also very, very important. Sharing your deepest emotions with your narcissistic mother is not a good idea in the best moments. At the best of times, even when your mother is in good mood, by now, and if you've listened to this podcast for a while, that sharing your deepest emotions with your narcissistic mother is giving her ammunition. What you share intimately with her is going to be used against you at some point. She can weaponize all of that to control you, manipulate you, and use it against you in some way. Or to triangulate with other people and all of that. So we know that. So with this knowledge, when she's going through grief, it can actually become even worse. As we said, gaslighting is going to likely be sky high at this time. Her dramatics are going to be sky high. All her behaviors are going to be heightened and worsened. So sharing with her is not a good idea. Find others who you can share with. A community that will support you. Friends that will truly hold you in your grief and honor what you're feeling in a healthy way if you're grieving. Or friends that can hold you in the moments where you're feeling the challenges of being in the presence of your mother that is grieving. Share with people that will hold you and hold you up and uplift you, rather than share with your mother in the hope of being close, but knowing full well that this is gonna come back against you in some way, shape, or form. So these are the 5 things that you can do from now. Let's recap for a moment. Number 1, be prepared. Number 2, manage your expectations. Number 3, set boundaries. Number 4, keep yourself resourced. And number 5, pick the people to share with. So I hope this helps you and supports you navigating your narcissistic mother going into grief or going into deep, strong emotions that can be really challenging to be around. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comment. If you want to ask me a question directly, send an email at matilde@womenreclaimingtheirfullness.me. With that, I'm gonna send you lots of love, and bye for now.